Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you. Josh's Severe Weather. We've got more winter weather on the way, and some of you that feel like you missed out yesterday are going to have a better chance here before the end of the week. So let's talk about what's coming here. A couple of clipper systems with colder air in place, so we are not going to be struggling as much to get snow to stick to the grass here. And several more inches on the way with a clipper that'll move through the Dakotas late today into tonight and then track across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, bringing several inches of fresh snow to parts of the upper Midwest here on Thursday into Thursday evening over parts of northern New England and southeast Canada. But that's not it. We've got another one that's going to follow it and bring snow into portions of Iowa, South Dakota, Illinois, and then eventually some snow on the way again for portions of the mid-Atlantic. So those of you that struggled to see snow yesterday in the DC area, in Delaware and South Jersey, parts of Virginia, are going to have a better chance for some accumulating snow coming Friday night and ending early in the day on Saturday. And because it's coming at night, and because temperatures will be cooler and it's more of a clipper system, I do think this time those of you that were disappointed will be in for more of a treat here. Those of you that wanted to see some snow. So here's a look at how much snow fell yesterday, and a pretty remarkable storm system that did not behave well, and you can see why. We had a kind of a narrow band about 20 miles wide that picked up over a foot of snow. Basically, the southern Poconos here, south and east of Scranton, over a foot of snow, right on into the lower Hudson Valley, into central Connecticut, and into western Rhode Island. And then things shut off very quickly around Boston. We had a little bit too much warm air coming in off the Atlantic to keep it from sticking to the grass for many of us. And what was a very promising forecast turned south. We actually saw a lot more snow on Cape Cod, which is unusual. This time of year, most of our big snows are in the Boston area or in Worcester and parts of eastern Rhode Island, not on southeastern Massachusetts. But because the storm took a little bit more of a southerly track, we did miss out on the heaviest snow. So very nasty weather. We saw 8 inches falling on parts of Cape Cod and 9 inches here on portions of Martha's Vineyard. So very not very well behaved storm. Even New York City, we did get 4 inches or so, 3 inches on parts of southeastern Manhattan and Brooklyn. So your biggest snow in 2 years, but that's not much to write home about. So the good news is we're not done with winter yet here. We've got more storms in the forecast. So those of you that are writing in from South Jersey that have expressed your disappointment, hold on. We've got some more snow on the way. So yeah, that's where we were here. Even portions of Tennessee, while very interesting that we did see some snowfall, even with lightning in the Nashville area, we just couldn't really get much of it to stick here a couple nights ago. So you are going to at least have something else to track. Here's where we stand for the season, and everybody's below average. That's been pretty clear. But some places are catching up, like Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Allentown. Meanwhile, where I live in Raleigh, I don't even know how we even got a trace of snow. I haven't seen anything than pollen here. And I don't think we're going to see anything, just to be honest with you guys. So in the Carolinas, Asheville, Western North Carolina, outside the mountains, Southeastern Virginia, Southern Maryland. Yep, it's just been a winter that really hasn't produced here, unfortunately. And, each year you've got areas that really get hammered and areas that miss out. We've had several where we've missed out because of where things have been positioned. And I don't think, unfortunately, we're going to be able to make up the difference anytime soon. So that's where we stand. You can pause this for a second and take a look at your area. I want to move on just for everybody's time. I want to respect your time. But let's take a look at what's coming here down the pipe. And we do have more weather coming. So we're not finished by any stretch here. Multiple storms tracking through the northern portion of the country. The one that is going to be in the picture first is this one tracking from western portions of Oregon right on into Wyoming. And you can kind of see this feature right here. This is the next piece of energy. It's going to come up and over this ridge and then kind of dive down through the northeastern United States. Most of the snow going to be on the northern portion of it. So you kind of have this one piece of energy here set to dive quickly through eastern Canada, and the one behind it set to kind of go up and over here. And that's going to produce significant snow for some of us here later tonight into tomorrow across this portion of the country. It's going to miss the areas that really got hit yesterday, but there's another feature behind it that's a little more intense that will also clip very quickly across the area. And that one's going to track farther south. So Thursday night, it organizes across South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa, kind of in this area, and then takes a more at Kentucky and then into the mid-Atlantic region. and we will likely see accumulating snow here Friday night as temperatures drop off. So we are certainly not finished. And in the south, unfortunately, more rain on the way. You can see the subtropical jet here taking aim at the Gulf Coast. I don't think we're going to be talking about severe weather anytime in the next week. Nothing organized at this point. We certainly are going to be talking about more rain, and that's going to impact the Gulf Coast region here late this week. And unfortunately, in the Sunshine State, no sunshine expected this weekend. We could have significant rain that it will be heading into central and northern Florida. And yes, that will include the Daytona area on Sunday. We probably are dealing with a washout there. So I'll be talking about that a little bit more in this video, but let's take a look at the hazards map. And we're clear of those now in the east, so it's quieter. Our next system has a winter weather advisory in purple from South Dakota into Wisconsin and Michigan. There's a winter storm warning over east central portions of South Dakota, west central and southwest Minnesota. The storm behind it already has winter storm warnings up for the Cascades, the Sierra Nevada, and the Teton Range here in the Northwest. So another winter storm on the way here. Here's a look at the GFS model over the next week. You see we've got an upper level system moving through New England, a little bit of snow expected into eastern Canada today. Next system, this is this evening, developing across South Dakota, several inches expected with it. Kind of a two-piece system, the northern piece in northwest Ontario, the southern piece tracking through Wisconsin. It'll be too warm for anything but rain around Chicago and Detroit, but north of that area, north of the low track, we will see significant snow falling later on this evening in Wisconsin, and then overnight in northern Michigan, moving into Ontario here by tomorrow morning. And there will be some mixing issues across western New York. So a mix of rain going back to snow here. And in Boston, primarily rain rather than snow. So we're going to miss again here in Boston as this low exits here Friday morning. Here comes the next system, and it's racing into Oregon today and tonight, then tracking through the central Rockies here. And then very quickly, we're seeing energy that will be moving along the base of this big trough here, bringing some light snow to St. Louis Friday morning, and then into Indiana and Illinois. Not a big snow. Don't get super excited about it, but there will be some snow falling Friday afternoon into early Friday night. This system's going to move quickly, so most people in the path of it will only get snow for about 6 to 10 hours. And it looks like the heaviest snow rates will be confined to the central Appalachians and southeastern Kentucky here Friday night. But we are going to see snow even across southern Pennsylvania, across southern New Jersey, across the Delmarva, with some mixing expected over the southern half of the Chesapeake Bay area, including the RVA areas. So you'll see totals that'll be lower around the Chesapeake Bay. It's not going to be a big deal for you guys, but you will see some snow late in the night, Friday night, early in the day, Saturday, and that's going to lift out. Now, if we've learned anything from the last storm, the track that we're seeing here 3 days out will probably change some. And it's not to say the meteorologists are getting it wrong, but as this system moves into the West Coast, we're going to get more upper level data with it, have a better idea of how it's shaped and how it's timing. So I will say this, a disclaimer that what you see today will probably change. I really hope everybody understands that. If you don't, I can't change your mind. But we could see this low pressure system a little farther south. That puts Richmond in the area, that puts Ocean City in the area. We could also see it a little bit further north, and that means New York City may see another potentially plowable snow, maybe even Boston. So again, what you're looking at today can change still. One thing that is for certain, though, it is going to get a lot colder here this weekend across the eastern United States, and it's going to get a lot wetter across the southeast and in particular Florida. Next week, we see another wave of moisture moving into the west, another atmospheric river taking aim at California. In the first half of the week, looks to be super wet across California with maybe some more flood potential, unfortunately, there. So that's what we're looking at. I want to talk about you folks in Atlantic Canada here. Powerful bomb cyclone south of Nova Scotia. We're still seeing some heavy snow this morning, but things will be winding down in the afternoon across eastern Nova Scotia. Newfoundland going to get in on the heavy snow today with maybe the potential for a little bit of rain to mix in over Cape Race. That system will be gradually winding down here, but a ton of wind expected, some more light snow expected as well overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. The Clipper that moves through New England Thursday night, Friday morning will dive south of you across Atlantic Canada, and I don't think we're going to see much significant snow from it. And then the Clipper behind it will go even further south, but expected to track northeast into Newfoundland, and Saturday night we could see a significant amount of snow falling across Newfoundland. So Atlantic Canada, still plenty of chances to get excited here over significant snow. I know you guys are also in a bit of a deficit despite what happened last week, but we are going to see multiple storms again. All right, so let's take a look at temperatures real quick here. Chillier this morning as expected. And if you're just watching this and it's sunrise in your area in the Northeast, you may be experiencing school delays due to the fact that what fell yesterday melted and refroze. As temperatures have dropped below freezing, we are seeing icy roads and bridges across interior portions of the Northeast and even the New York City area, and maybe even the northern suburbs of Philly as temperatures stay below freezing. Now, as the day wears on, we will rebound in temperatures today. Should be a pretty nice day over the Carolinas, over the Southeast, Missouri and Arkansas, 50s and low 60s. Any snow that's still on the ground, pretty much all melted today. We will see tomorrow some chillier air moving into the upper Midwest, but a warm up out ahead of it. And so Chicago should make it back up to 40 degrees, 50s in West Virginia and even Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for our highs tomorrow, 60s across the Southeast, and we're above freezing across the Northeast. So we will see melting tomorrow. As we head into Friday, you will see there is colder air moving into New England and a chillier day expected on Friday across most of New England and colder as well across the Great Lakes. And there are some single digits showing up in Minnesota for Friday afternoon. So that colder air is going to advance south and eastward, and we are going to have colder weather in time for the weekend here across the Northeast. Here's a look at our first clipper moving through South Dakota. This is accumulated snow, so there will be more that falls that maybe doesn't stick or it coalesces, but generally speaking, 3 to 6 inches here in South Dakota into parts of Minnesota here tonight, and some places could see over 6 inches of fresh snowpack here. We will see a little bit more tomorrow on top of that, tracking a little farther southeast in Iowa. So totals over the next 60 hours or so may get up over 8 inches to perhaps as much as 10 inches here across South Dakota, as much as 4 inches in Iowa and Minnesota. Farther off to the east across the upper Midwest, this first storm misses you in Chicago, and it's going to be a close call in Madison and Milwaukee, as well as Grand Rapids. Higher amounts off to your north, places like Wausau and Stevens Point could see a few inches of snow here later on this evening and overnight tonight. A few inches as well across the northern half of lower Michigan, especially north of the Thumb here, as well as on the Ontario side here of Lake Huron. As we look off to the next system here, we are going to see some light snow over parts of northern New England. Not a big deal at this point. The next system tracks in Thursday and brings us a few inches across upstate New York and the ski areas of New England, with potentially a foot of snow falling around Mount Washington here, but a few inches, maybe 10 centimeters north of Toronto here across portions of Ontario, and then spreading into southwestern Quebec here, including the Ottawa area. We could see about 10 centimeters of fresh snow. And this next system could bring some light snow into portions of central New England, including the northern side of Boston. Boston proper may not see a whole lot out of it, but we could see a small accumulation. The seacoast of Maine and New Hampshire, probably an inch or two. So southwestern Maine could see a couple of inches of accumulation here. And the timeline for that is beginning around 10 o'clock tomorrow night and heaviest overnight tomorrow night and early in the day Friday, winding down around lunchtime Friday at the latest. So that's a look at that clipper. Let's take a look here at the following system. Couple of inches moving into central Iowa and into central Illinois, maybe northern parts of Missouri. The timeline on this is going to be later Thursday night in Iowa and early in the day Friday across portions of the lower Midwest. Central Illinois, maybe St. Louis, and we could even see a little bit of snow in the evening around places like Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, all the way to close to Hopkinsville. Central Indiana, central Illinois, I don't have anything too exciting for you, but we could see an inch or two of snow, and somebody in here could get a heavier band. So don't rule things out, but Indianapolis, you may see over an inch Friday night. But again, some uncertainty on the exact track of the system. This is the NAM model. It's not the strongest model, but I wanted to show it to you just because it gives you kind of an idea of where the heavier band may set up. All right, this is midnight Friday night. We see snow moving into West Virginia. Huntington and Charleston are included this time. We missed out last time. We may see a little bit as well across Ohio and Pennsylvania with the first wave. But this is the wave we're tracking here. And we do see a few inches starting to pile up here late Friday night. And arriving after midnight, central Maryland over to D.C. and northern Virginia all could see accumulating snow by Saturday morning. This is how much would stick according to the NAM, and we see an inch or more across all of southern Pennsylvania. Even Uniontown and Pittsburgh are going to get a little bit of snow out of this. Heavier amounts over West Virginia, Western Maryland, and across northwestern Virginia, and that may include Winchester Harrisonburg, Stanton, possibly even down to Lexington and certainly Hot Springs, and a light amount of snow down into the Smokies here as well, Wytheville included in that. So again, this is subject to change because it's still a few days away. But there is some hope for those of us in South Jersey and Southern Delaware, Eastern Shore of Maryland, even Southern Maryland. I know some of you have been chiming in, hey, when are we going to see snow again? This is looking more promising for you. Even the northern neck of Virginia can get in on this. The peninsula, maybe not quite so much, but the northern neck, Colonial Beach, those areas, St. Mary's, Maryland, all could see a couple of inches of snow out of this. And the timeline for it is going to be after midnight. So mainly in the pre-dawn hours when the ground temperatures are coldest because it will be dark out. So 5, 6 in the morning here on Saturday, do expect to see some challenges with the travel here as roads ice up here. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. Farther into the Northeast, here's our first snow system here. Thursday night, a few inches around the Capital District, Albany and Syracuse on northward. And especially Vermont, where we want to see some snow. It's been a little bit of a while. We could see a few inches out of it. The system behind it has some promise coming for New York City, but again, we may not even see an inch out of it in New York City or on Long Island or Connecticut. So we're going to kind of miss with a more of a southern track at this point, according to the consensus of the models. Now, if this shifts northward, places like Philly, New York City, Lawrenceville, New Jersey, Stamford, Connecticut, could pick up more than this if it shifts north. We could see a couple of inches out of it, and it'll be coming at an ideal time, 6, 7 in the morning again for Saturday. But when we get farther east into places like Boston and southeastern New England, this is looking less promising for you. So more to come here in the coming days. Looking real quick at Atlantic Canada, we see the potential for about 5 centimeters around Halifax, more across Sable Island, perhaps over 15 centimeters in some areas. And across eastern Newfoundland, the potential for some big snow coming here, first with this system and then again with the next one. And we could see amounts getting over 25 to 30 centimeters of snow. Let's talk about rain down south. It's not looking pretty this weekend, folks. Rain moves into South Texas here on Thursday night. We could see a couple of inches around Corpus Christi. Moves up the coast of Texas on Friday. Southern Louisiana looks wet. And then unfortunately Friday, Florida looks wet here, and the band of heaviest rain on the GFS is tracking north of Interstate 4. That includes just north of Orlando, Ocala, Crystal River, over to Daytona Beach, and Sunday looks like a washout in Daytona. That's not going to be good for the race, unfortunately. This could shift north or south still. We could see the heaviest rain in Tampa or Orlando or Melbourne, or it could shift north, and that puts Jacksonville and Gainesville in the area of heaviest of rain. But right now it looks like it's north central Florida. So this is subject to change. I don't think South Florida sees a ton of rain, but I would be on the lookout in South Florida for some thunderstorms here over the weekend. So that's where we stand with that. This is not going to be coming up into the Carolinas. It looks like it's confined to the Gulf Coast region here. And then out west, California unfortunately gets wet in the north here today and tonight. Heavy snow in the mountains, potentially over 3 inches of rain. Here comes the next one, Saturday night and Sunday, moving into Central Cal. And then early next week, we see the potential for over 2 inches of rain and maybe locally up to a foot of rain in parts of the Big Sur area up to the Bay Area, and a lot of snow expected in the mountains early next week. Another atmospheric river, not as strong as the one we dealt with last week, but another significant storm is on the way. Looking at the longer range, this is the Madden-Julian Oscillation. We are moving through the coldest phases now, and we are expected to head into some warmer phases after February 20th. This is a change. If you watched yesterday, this does not surprise you, but if you watched last week, it probably does. But we are likely heading into some warmer phases in the central and eastern U.S. over the next couple of weeks. And the end of February does look like it turns warmer again as the groundhog gets his revenge. One thing I want to show you guys is the North Atlantic Oscillation. When it's positive, we lose the blocking of high pressure in Greenland that allows cold air to drop down through the Great Lakes and Northeast. The timeline on this is by the end of the weekend, we are seeing that recovering to near neutral. And next week, we are seeing a positive NAO, which does not favor winter storms across the Northeast, certainly not in the Southeast either. The motion back towards neutral is the area that favors East Coast storms. And because we are moving towards neutral here on Friday and Saturday, that's why the signal is there for a storm to move through the Northeast. We're going to see a couple of them, of course, here. But as we get to next week, that pattern does look a lot less favorable for winter weather, according to the European. and it stays in that direction pretty much through the end of February. It's pretty neutral in here. And of course, the spread grows as our uncertainty grows, but this does not favor a big storm in the Northeast once we get past this weekend. There'll be more minor storms. There could be something for New England, of course, next week, even with a positive NAO, but it's going to be progressive. And those faster moving storms are likely to produce less snow. They just have less time to bring that snow. The PNA is a little bit positive right now, but it goes negative here next week in the Southeast, or it's around neutral. And this means the ridge in the west that sends colder air into the southeast goes away, and we will likely see a ridge replace it here at the end of February, meaning our temperatures in the southeast will end up above average after a chilly start here to the President's Day weekend. You see kind of this chill coming in this weekend. It's chilly here over all the east and the southeast. It will not stay that way. As we head later into next week, we see a rebound, and much of the south central US will be above average for the second half of next week. And another shot of cool comes down next weekend, but that gets quickly replaced by above average weather. And this is a look at the end of February, and it is looking spring-like. So be prepared for pollen to start climbing northward into places like Virginia and Tennessee here as the trees start to bloom. The west stays cool. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, this did not look like the case, and it does now. So our shot at winter weather in the southeast is pretty much all but gone by the time we get to the end of the month of February. So yes, I said this yesterday. I'm going to show you guys again because I am laughing at myself. I just can't control things. I do my very best, folks. But there are things that are totally out of our control, out of our reach, things that humble us every day. And for me, it's my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who reminds me that I am not even close to God. I'm not here to be right. I'm just here to do my very best. And I give him all the glory because we lose in this business. Okay. We take some losses, but we learn when we lose. We don't learn when we win. If we keep winning, it's like, okay, great. Well, we're winning. We're on a roll here. But if we lose, we try to figure out why and try to be better as a result. And that's kind of what happens sometimes in this business. So I appreciate you guys that have been sticking with me through the losses here. And, you know, there's more wins than losses, I believe, but nobody's perfect here. And we can really only do our best. So if everybody was perfect, everybody would have a YouTube channel. The weather would not be a difficult not be a point of contention here, honestly. And what I do every day just wouldn't mean that much. So I try to be meaningful. I try to do my best. And I don't really feel like I have to defend myself, but you know, there are times when there's disappointment. People may lose faith in a forecast, and I totally get it. I'm with you guys here. I mean, there's days that I'm going gray faster than I should, but appreciate your time. That's really all I want to say today is that you guys mean a lot to me. I'm happy to pray for you guys. And God is good. No matter what happens here in the end, we can't control it. We can just choose to believe in him and believe in his promises. Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. We're going to take some losses. We're going to take some hits. But if we love God, then in the end, we all win. And that's the message I wanted to share with you guys today. And if you're not winning, that is quite all right. I totally believe the power of prayer is important. I believe calling on God is important. Trying to do everything ourselves is just going to end up failing in the end. But giving it and turning it over to God and letting him fight the battles for us, we're already victorious if we believe that Jesus is our savior, that he'll save us eternally. And we're just going to have to do battle until then with God on our side. So I'm happy to pray for you no matter what you're going through today. And I really do appreciate you guys that are sticking with me. We'll be back in the morning to fine tune this forecast for the next couple of storms. You guys have a great day. See ya.